welcome to the Diplomats. We are here. I've got Stitches. I've got Hand. We've got a game. Before we look at the moves, do you guys want to take back anything you said? Any of the harsh critiques you made?
I was actually nice. So I think I'm good.
And why are you so hated on the Discord server? Why are you hated?
Oh, I actually haven't been following it today. Am I getting a lot of hate?
You're getting a lot of hate. Now he's got to look.
I have a million
I thought he
hats.
had a fan club. I thought it was a Savvy that wanted to hate him. She was rounding up the pitchforks, and they're like, "No, we like him."
Oh, I'm looking at this. It seems like there was like an assassination attempt on me, and then my Praetorian Guard came and reversed it. That's nice. Wow, Sabi is ruthless. She tried to start a brown power movement against me. That's that
it didn't work. It didn't work. You had allies.
Yeah, they really need to get into press. I think that Sabi would like conspiracy maybe because it's a little more chatty. But the combination of their endless chat and somewhat narcissistic nature and political ruthlessness makes me think that they really need to get into press. But
I think if I made a Florida variant, they'd play it.
Florida variant.
All right. Well, I brought on a special guest today to call you out on all your grades.
What? Eustachio, is he gonna leave his camera off? Come on, dude. I do have some reversals, but I think I want to talk about it in the context of the moves.
Come on, we got Eustachio here on the pod. Eustachio, EVR Austria last year. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's nice to finally be here. I've missed like the first 5 or 6 times you sent me a link to the podcast, so I'm glad it worked out this time.
I was not that desperate.
No, I was the one who said I wanted to come on, and you were accommodating to me, but
you're here to attack.
I could never make the time work.
That's what you're here to do. If you don't do that, I'm going to kick you off.
Got it.
I disagree. I think Eustachio and I are, both observing his game last year and his comments. I think he's actually someone. If I had to name someone who might play similar to me and has some similar ideas, it would actually be him. So
at least he could shed some light on the Bohemia curse here.
Yeah. So Eustachio, we've not gotten to the fall moves, but I would like your perspective. You played with 2 of the finalists last year. One of them has the same power, Village Idiot. Have you noticed from the outside, a shift in strategy from last year, or what do you think of your 2 competitors who've made it back to back? Quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it's a great accomplishment, making it 2 years in a row, and I think both of them have a little bit of a different approach this year. Although, Tanjan in Turkey, he allowed Russia to get some really good position early, but he's recovered nicely here. I think Ewok has had a little bit of a different strategy this year. I can see him trying to sort of manipulate the board diplomatically. I think he played a big role in the downfall of Pez in this game. The stab of Turkey, to me, that screamed what he calls a soft stab, something he didn't really intend on following through on completely.
Like when he took Budapest from you last year.
Right. And so I don't know if he told Tanjan that he was going to do this or not, or if he just wanted that pure reaction afterwards from not telling him. But putting the fleet in there, like if you want a stab to work, you convoy an army. That's what you do. Mm-hmm. I think this was to shift board dynamics against Austria and try to get that 3-way where you carve it up, and then you have the freedom to go and address what's going on in the West, because it didn't seem like Pez was very interested in like throwing armies up on the border of Germany there and doing anything, or giving Russia the freedom to send units north. So I think that's sort of what went down early in the game in the East, which it's been messy and it's been slow to react to what's going on the board, if we're being honest. Like the East has been just, I think, a lot of strong personalities there, strong opinions, and it's always hard in the East because you have to try to get three stubborn people to agree on one plan. And it just is very difficult to make that arrangement work, as I found out firsthand last year. I thought going in that I could be like this great negotiator that would bring people together, and it's so hard to get people on the same page. But there's obviously more urgency now, and I think we're starting to see it. At least
talk briefly. Hang on though. Talk briefly about Riaz and the West. You played in the prelims an alliance with Riaz. I only know this because I subbed in. And was your janissary
Germany late.
You and Riaz until you took me out at
we
the
had
end.
To kill you off. It was unfortunate.
But I mean, talk about playing with Riaz, and you picked him, and he picked you. Why did you like that? And just about him as a player and press.
Yeah, so that was the first time I've ever played press with him. And I've played a lot of gunboat and speedboat with him before, and we've talked in AARs. We have a very similar perspective on a lot of things. We're both alliance players and just very detail oriented players. And so like opening negotiations of that game, it was just so obvious from spring 01 that it was going to be the game long alliance for us. I was in Italy, he was in Austria, and just our thinking was so in line that it just never made sense to really even consider anything else strongly. You could try to use other players to accomplish things on the board, but it was always going to be an AI to the end. And we ended up with 15-15-4, I think was the split. So Riaz will not stab without a purpose. And I know that about him. He's not allergic to stabbing, as we have seen in this game, but he isn't going to do it unless he feels he really needs to. And so I knew that I could play with a freedom with him as my ally, that taking risks that I could not do with somebody else. And so that's why I chose him as an ally in that game. And it worked out great for both of us. It got us both to the second round. And, I enjoyed that experience a lot working with him.
Eustachio, I hope that we can play Austria and Italy together one day. But also, do you think that stops?
Maybe we would have if you didn't drop out of season 6 before the second round.
I know. I'm still. I just haven't had the time, and I'm still processing trauma from the third, from season 3. But
understandable. Even though that was one of the big reasons I joined the tournament on the last day. I was like, there's some players in this tournament I'd really like to play with, even though I'm tired from season 5.
I just couldn't. I just didn't have the time. I wish. Actually, really, one thing about Ewok that when we do the end of game interviews is I actually want his advice on avoiding burnout, because for me, I find this game is so psychologically taxing for me, and I already have my own problems and issues on top of it. So it's
exhausting.
I just don't know how he does it. He also has this kind of lightness to him too, that I would love to pick his brain about him. But do you think that soft stab against Turkey do you think it's a balance of power move between Italy and to keep Italy and Turkey kind of balanced, or do you think that perhaps it indicates a kind of deeper wintergreen?
I think Max Vax in Italy probably wasn't prepared to do anything against Austria unless he saw that Russia was willing to break up with Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when Pez put 2 onto Venice, even though he didn't follow through, that was nail in the coffin, of course. But I think it was to send a signal to Italy that, look, we could potentially make something work here down the road.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going. I'm pretty fascinated to see how that's going to play out, because I don't think Tianjin took kindly to it, and you can see how he since then has put up a wall against the Russian fleet there, making sure he's not leaving any openings. So, like, I think the East really could break in any direction still. It could be IT against R later, it could be a wintergreen, and it could even still be a juggernaut, although I think that's maybe a little tougher now, but not necessarily out of the picture. I mean, at some point, two of them are going to try to carve up the other to try and make a play at the board top. It's going to happen. But at the same time, I think they all recognize that the situation calls for some patience and that nobody can win unless England gets cut down. So,
all right. Let's we're going to get to the fall moves. Very controversial 2, not 3 unit build. Didn't go over well with Hand or any of us. I think Fleet Liverpool was called for. Here are the whoa. Oops. Oops. Oh, talk for a second while I pull it up. I don't know where it went. Ask you Stocky some more questions.
Well, where should we start and we can start talking? Do we want to start with Turkey or England? I think we should do one of the corners. What do you think, Stitches?
I usually like to talk Turkey, especially with England. There's so much to say. I think we gloss over the rest of them.
Yeah, England can be the grand finale. So yeah, let's start with Turkey. What do you? I mean, first of all, the 3 armies. I have to say, there's actually, this turn. First of all, I really want to put to bed, I think at this point we can put to bed the idea that this is such a horribly boring finals, because the past 2 turns have been interesting. First of all, Riaz is just, in my opinion, just throwing a clear path to victory in the garbage, which we'll get to. But also what Turkey's doing, again, it's funny watching someone with a very different style, because it almost makes you feel stupid because what they're doing dawns on you so slowly. There we go. I felt like he needed to expand much faster. I still might think that, just because when you're behind, you need to break out a little quicker. But I will say, him building that 3rd army, I think that's what allowed him to. I think that's what gave Russia the confidence to move out of the Black Sea, and also gave Italy the confidence to move out of the Ionian. And suddenly he's in a position where doesn't have an immediate threat to him at all. So pretty well done there. I mean, the support of Constantinople seems, I guess purely symbolic, but pretty well done. I mean, Armenia is completely open. However, I will say that he's at an inflection point. He's done very well. He's laid low. It's very, very smart to keep the door open with Italy, because I do think Russia is playing the classic Russia game of keeping them wedged apart and a little bit less powerful than him, and then choosing among them, at the key moment. But he is, at this point, I mean, I do appreciate his patience here, but he has to build a fleet now, I think. I think it's time. I don't like to move to East too much, not because of Italy, and I understand wanting to make Italy feel more comfortable, but he could have loaded 2 fleets up against the Black Sea. I think he has to make something of a decision now. I mean, assuming he's going to build a fleet in Constantinople. I think it's time. He needs to make his move now, but I do.
Why wouldn't he follow Bulgaria with Khan and just drop the Aegean and the Constantinople?
I think that was by Italy's request, both Eastern Med and not going into Bulgaria, so that there weren't 2 on Greece. I think it's a diplomatic move.
It's too diplomatic, though. It's too diplomatic.
He's already got no defense against, being surrounded by fleets. He can be carved up pretty easily, and now you want him to space all his units out? I think it's too much. I think having him back into Constantinople is enough. But that's just me.
I think I would have taken Bulgaria if it was me.
Yeah, it's odd though. What
I
is
agree
the
that
rationale? What is the rationale?
I think right now you want to be the player in the East that is least difficult to work with.
Well, he is. He's giving away.
And I think yes, but he also has options here. I mean, I would have put the fleet in Smyrna if I'm pulling it back just because that gives you options for the fall. But
yes, that would have been the thing to do.
I mean, at the same time, I think both Russia and Italy are going to court his support here rather than each other. And I mean, that's a good position to be in and to have options. It might still be too slow, his play ultimately, but there's still more than half the game left. So I think if you make a move too soon here, before something is done against England, that you risk somebody just throwing more centers to them. So you have to be cautious about exactly when you make your move, but when you make your move, it has to be done in full force.
All right.
Now that you mention it, the move to Smyrna, I agree with that because you can shift it up to Constantinople and build a second fleet, go to Armenia. And I think that would be the way to go, try to dominate the periphery of the Black Sea. But now that you mention that, the move to, even though it looks pro-Italy, we were talking last episode, I don't know if you listened, but we were talking about ingratiating moves as an alarm. Like if someone does something ingratiating, or are they trying to take down your guard?
He's still an Ionian. So
yeah, exactly. So he might signal intention to try to go into the Ionian versus moving against Russia, I suppose. I mean, he has to choose one or the other, right? I mean, Austria's eliminated. There's no more whipping boy anymore. So
you could take Greece and leave Serbia in Russian hands. Ionian and Greece.
But yeah,
he only has one on Greece, and Italy will cover with the fleet.
Yeah, I think he's going to try.
He could. I mean, he could take Ionian here. It's a valid option to consider because, really, I mean, the one Italian fleet that's helping out France right now, it's kind of useful. But is Italy hovering around France going to be useful long term? No. And so you want France to have the freedom to resist England fully. And so, I mean, there's some logic in making a move on Italy now that Austria is dead. And so you're right that it's kind of a sneaky move, even though it appears friendly. It could have hostile intent pretty quickly here. And then he pulls Khan to Bulgaria and has 2 on Greece next year, which will be an easy capture. I mean, it could develop into a very effective juggernaut pretty quickly. The question is, do you want to extend outward against Italy with what Ewok did earlier?
No,
and
that's
what you have to answer.
In fact, this is what, if I'm going to make a very specific prediction. So we were actually talking last episode. Ed asked the question about keeping information to yourself and the problem of leaks.
Right.
And we gave a few answers. I've actually kept thinking about it because it's actually one of the, especially high level games, it's one of the biggest problems. And, we gave some more subtle answers, but I think a more direct answer would also be careful of people who press you for your moves a little too hard, and don't feel you can actually be direct. You can say, I don't want to give out my moves.
Yeah.
And in fact, you can actually put it in a nice way. You could say, hey, if my move appears to have been leaked, I don't want to blame you, my friend, for that. It might have not been your fault, but I'm the kind of person who will get angry. So I don't want to blame you. So I'm not going to tell you. And then I'll know that you're on side. And I really worry. I hope that Turkey isn't telling Russia everything, because what I see here, Turkey moving to the Ionian, telling Russia what he's doing, and Russia simply moving back to the Black Sea. And suddenly Italy and Russia are bearing down on you.
Right.
So he needs to be very careful with his information here. I appreciate how confusing what he's doing is. That's sometimes a good thing, but he needs to keep that information, his cards, close to his chest.
I will say, from playing with him, he does tend to be very cautious about what information he gives out. Like he's a very friendly person. He gets along with everybody on the board. Yeah, as Austria, I considered England my closest relationship on the board last year, honestly. But he also was very hesitant to give out details that could be used against him in that way. But at the same time, I wasn't his neighbor and ally, so it's different when you're coordinating too. So I'm not entirely sure what his policy with Ewok is, but I think he would be cautious given the events to date in this game.
He's in a pretty good position. I think no matter what, he's got to build, even if he's forced to retreat. They'd really have to leave Austria alone to mess with him. And I don't think anyone's going to do anything against him because then he'll just build a fleet on them. So I think he's good for this year.
All right, we should talk about Russia. We can't have this go 2 hours, even though our loyal fans would love it. Clearly, we don't know what's next in the East after Arrivederci Pez, but he signals peace towards Turkey and is instrumental in the carving up of Austria. Takes Budapest, takes Trieste. Could have Vienna next year. Probably gives Trieste to Italy. Gave Serbia to Turkey. He tries to bounce in Norway again. Didn't work. But moves to Livonia. St. Petersburg is safe for 05 at least.
Okay, first of all, you can't like invite a fourth person on and then start rushing us. Like that's going to be 25% longer of a podcast. Sorry, that's just the physics of time. Not that I love having Eustachio on. Russia, the move out of the Black Sea. I mean, I think that again, I think I might be the only person here who hasn't played with Ewok, so sometimes I feel like I'm the most in the dark. I feel like he's both he's projecting the image of someone who's magnanimous and helping and also covering Romania, because I actually notice he's very, very cautious and a little bit paranoid about people slipping into his centers. Typical, and it's funny because that's actually kind of what he does is, I said earlier, I don't think I've ever seen him support into a center. He always just seems to walk into centers. So he's covering Romania and leaving the Black. There's also no fleet there to get into the Black Sea. I mean, he's done, this is again, just masterful work by Russia. I mean, I was the only one to give him an A last turn. You guys gave him a D and a C, I believe, which I still can't believe. But masterful work. Italy double support. Yeah, besides Finland, but maybe he's just committed to Finnish independence. I don't know. He has this psychological force field up there. But you don't see Italy support Russia into Trieste too often. I think Italy was smart to move to Albania and might not have told Russia that, in the sense that maybe Russia kind of was hoping he could hold it if he needed to. Really well done down there. I don't completely understand the move to Livonia, but I'm sure you guys can explain it to me. The move to Norway, at this point, I almost think it's a psychological tactic. He's doing it over and over again so that when anything different happens, it'll be a surprise, perhaps. I think he knew that the board had united in an impressive fashion against England, so he probably felt safe doing that. So I think it's very, very well done all across.
I like the
Livonia is to make sure that. Oh, go ahead.
It covers all three of his centers, and if England has a retreat or moves to convoy in the Baltic, he doesn't have to worry about something coming behind the lines.
That's right. Yeah. It
also lets him bounce STP if he has to. So.
That's right. Yeah.
And it allows him to support St. Petersburg if, like, Riaz put 2 on St. Pete and still build in Moscow, which guarantees it next year. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, if Riaz had gone hard against him, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. So I think it's another excellent move by Russia. But even beyond that, So we had a really good discussion after we turned the cameras off yesterday, because I was so perplexed by the waiving a build, which just, I've got to say, I almost felt like bullied and pressured because of these, like, mucky yucky army lovers were giving me such a hard time. Almost felt this pressure to, even though I did critique them, this wave build, such a mistake. Like, so anyway, the point is, Ed, you explained to me that these wave builds are very common in face-to-face.
They are.
Yeah, and you kind of explained the logic behind it, which is both to put people at ease, which, as we've kind of are starting to explore, if someone's trying to put you at ease a little too hard, perhaps you should cultivate a little bit of unease. But not only that, but the idea that, in a face-to-face game, it's a little more, it's faster paced, and so people tend to forget or half forget that you still have a build in your pocket. I think waiving a build in a full press game like this, that's especially this one that's going extra slow, is ridiculous. We talked about social norms, and that's a social norm that you should not get entrapped with. If someone asked me to waive a build, and I would in fact inform them that I consider that hostility. I consider that war by other means. And we talked about your season 2 game, where we actually, you guys seem to think that Ewok is playing so differently. Having watched this, because he's so great, this is my 3rd time watching him in the finals. I see so many patterns. So for instance, keeping the fleet in the Black Sea, the idea of leverage, which actually I think a lot of these other powers could learn from Ewok and learn the power of leverage, especially against good players who often don't understand anything else. It reminded me of how he sat in the English Channel as France when you were England, and just kind of kept his foot on your throat for quite a while. And also how he demanded that you waive a build. So I think that France might be the one I want to hang the medal on in terms of causing Riaz to just give his victory away. But because of that history, I think that Russia might also either be the central actor in that or a strong actor in that. And if that's true, then just amazing work finding.
I'm gonna take
Ewok demanded that I waive a build. And I was like, I was so new. I was like, waive a build? Is that even a thing? I'm not waiving a build. I'm building. And he's like, if you build, right. It's in the press. I said, if you build, he told me, he goes, we'll be Thelma and Louise going off the cliff. And I was like, start the car. Let's go. Because I'm not waiving a build. But I think some players might give into that.
In the Nexus finals, you're going to waive a build? Like, you're almost disrespecting the game at that point. But yeah, what were you going to say, Stitches? About Finland?
Oh, yeah. If he didn't tap Norway, then he could actually have extra units. So forcing England to support into Norway ensures SDP is safe. So in this case, I actually like the STP tap to Norway. That way, because Sweden can't pivot off. So
all right,
you wouldn't have anything.
We'll get to the build England later. Eustachio, what do you think about Russia? Not the actual.
I like
country,
the Russian.
Just this move. This move set.
I think it was great moves all around. I wouldn't have done a single thing different this turn. Yeah, I like the Russian position a lot. I think if England doesn't win this game, then Russia has a very good chance to.
All right. And Italy, Hand, start with you. The support of Serbia, and as to you say Trieste. I would normally say Trieste, but I don't know what is proper. What do you think of Italy's? I think you kind of like them based on what I could hear earlier.
Oh, the reason I say Trieste is the Italian pronunciation. I don't know why I always go that way. It's almost a nod to Peds, who firmly believes that it should be Italian. I don't know. I really don't know why I do that. But I think that I have a few reversals, in my opinions. Turkey, a slight reversal. I see the outlines of what he's trying to do. I still think it's a little slow. think he might be too focused on diplomacy and not enough on the board. But Italy, this is a really great move. I think Italy might make me eat crow a little bit here, especially when I was critiquing, to put it lightly, him on his long-term thinking. I mean, I think he might, in fact, it might be the other way around, that at times his short-term thinking is a little bit flawed, but his ability to think a few moves ahead and his apparent knowledge of what's going on around the board and his flexibility, which, you know, we talked so long about his resentment against Pez, and who hasn't felt resentful against Pez at some point. But look at his flexibility. I still firmly think he knew that England's stab was coming, but then to turn around and to side with France in a way which still very well might be him creeping up on France, probably is. Really well done. Great position. I think he might have caught Russia a little bit with their pants down by moving to Albania. He got Turkey to move away from him somehow. He's still defending Greece with one fleet, which is, I love. And Trieste is guaranteed. He's going to get a build, creeping up on France, helping hold the line against England, which apparently you don't even need to do, because England just decided to hubristically wave a build and not even try for the mid-Atlantic. Just very, very well done. Very well done. Beautiful turn by him.
Stitches?
Oh, I like it a lot. I'm assuming that was a French invite into North Africa, just to support him, to hold the line. The only thing better for him is if, you know, the Turkish fleet went to Smyrna. So otherwise, fairly flawless, good follow through. I love the Albania move to ensure he gets a build. So.
EVR?
Yeah, I wouldn't have done anything different here. The fleet in North Africa is a really nice touch because it allows the fleet in Spain's southern coast to move to MAO with support, which allows that fleet in MAO to be mobile here. It could go to Irish, it could go to Brest, it could go to NAO. There's options. So it's a very helpful move to forming a cohesive resistance against England. And it also is nice because it's near French centers down the line once the French units extend against England itself, because Italy has to grow at some point. And so, I mean, that's going to be one of the obvious targets once Austria is dead. It either has to be Turkey or France and Iberia. So inching closer is never a bad idea, just to be there.
I will say my only thing, I actually think he should have moved to Western Mediterranean. And I understand that that might set some alarm bells off in France. But if there's one thing we can learn from Village Idiot Ewok's play, is that against high-level players, you can't be too scared of alarming them to the point where you underestimate the power of leverage, right? Having the Western Mediterranean keeps France from reversing course, and it gives you leverage over France. However, I'm not saying that necessarily was the right move, because you've got to know what players are more receptive to kindness and what players are more receptive to leverage. For instance, players who use leverage are probably more receptive to leverage. Like I would use leverage against Ewok, I think. But there is a strong case to be made, I think, for being in Western Med. North Africa often is not the greatest idea unless the tiles around it are you have already filled. So but again, that's a blemish. That's a blemish. It's not. It really depends on the diplomatic situation.
All right. Well, Max only likes to hear positive things, so I think he should be very happy of what the three of you said. We won't call him Mad Max anymore. We'll call him Fab Max. And you should be very happy. Not much to say about Pez. I mean, I really don't think he could have done anything differently here to defend. I still maintain he will live in Munich at the end of this game.
I mean, he's at so we're gonna get to England for a minute, and I remember I don't know if maybe our one fan remembers me talking about, and I kind of forgot my own rule, but that if you brutally stab someone and you want to make them a janissary, it better be down to one center, right? A one army, even a two army janissary, if they have revenge in the back of their minds, is maybe not the best idea. But Pez is going to be, he is down to one center. So doesn't anyone want Pez as a slave at least? But the problem with Pez is if there's one gaping hole in Pez's game, he doesn't know how to apologize. He doesn't know how to grovel. He has a lot of pride. I mean, that's probably a good quality in everyday life, but
it's really Italian of him.
He also probably sees hope in any position whatsoever. Like even on one dot, he'll have dreams of someday reclaiming his home centers.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, he might keep Tyrolia in the end or something. But it seems like they don't even want him as a single army janissary. I mean, I don't know.
I think Ewok definitely with the soft stab really highlighted the differences between Italy and Austria. They already had a really weird working relationship, I think, going into this. So getting them to have any conflict was definitely ideal. And I think Russia's really monopolizing on taking Austria out now. So.
Okay.
Personally, I would love Pez as a slave. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Not talking about this Austria's moves, but what did you think was going on with Pez's mind by the feint to Tyrolia? I think it was 02 or 03. I mean, it seemed to be the thing that really caused his downfall here.
Yeah. I mean, if you move to Tyrolia, I think you have to follow through on the next turn. Because Italy's just never going to be happy with you putting 2 on Venice. And he had it guaranteed, if I recall correctly.
He did.
Assuming no German interference. So, I mean, I just didn't see the upside of moving off it. To me, it seemed like a move you make out of frustration with the people you're working with, which in that case was Ewok. Like either Ewok or I think Philip in France, perhaps, where maybe they were asking for too much from him at the time and he got fed up. But when you pick a course, you have to commit a lot of the time. Sometimes you have options and the ability to pivot, but I don't think this was one of those times. His units weren't in flexible positions. The fleet was, I think, stuck on Bulgaria south coast, which I'm not even going to get into that.
How many armies did you convoy?
I know.
To commitment to very weird convoys.
Follow up, though, I will say, I mean, I actually disagree with you about how he should have followed up on that. But I'm not going to go too deep into that. But I will say, do you think that you and Pez might have the same recurrent nightmare where a small fuzzy creature comes out of the forest and tells you to move to Bohemia?
That Bohemia army, goodness.
Yeah.
Lots of regrets there.
No.
I think I'm gonna print out a map, and every time I play Austria, I'm gonna tape it to the wall and put a red circle around Bohemia and just put not until 1908 or something.
So like Switzerland. It doesn't exist for you.
Yeah. I miss Tom is also in this finals. I mean, he gave us so much entertainment last year.
Yeah,
Tom's a great player. He's a lot of fun to play with. He's always doing something that is making the board react.
Revenge of the West. Look at. Looks like France and Germany finally picked up the phone, the hotline, and started talking to each other. And Italy, I'm gonna guess, along with you guys, is working with France, and they heeded the call. I'm not sure they had a half a season to wait. If I feel like if they didn't move now, coordinated, I've been sounding the alarms now for a while, but I'm impressed with France and Germany here.
Yeah, I think the stab was a little early for England, especially if you're not going to follow up by building everything. You could have really bottled it up. So letting France out of his commitments, because he probably only really cared about England and working with England, but now he has the chops to work with everybody. So I think he got everyone on side pretty fast. I think he's a pretty good diplomat, and if you're not going to try to take him out immediately, then you're letting him rally the board. And I think he's done a very good job here.
Mm-hmm. So 2 things. I don't know if you guys saw Germany drive by the other day in that brand new 1998 Honda Civic. God, that thing looks great. Like, it's not going to even break down for a few years. So good job, France. You got Germany some good wheels there. But so I think we got to separate France and Germany in terms of our evaluations. For France, he did what he had to do. He did what he had to do here. He did well. It's good that he got Italy to help. He needed that. I mean, it's not great for him that Italy's in the West, but at least he's in North Africa and not the Western Med. He can actually reverse course if he wants. The fact that he got, I don't know if he was directly behind this, but if he was, I mean, the fact that Riaz waived a build, Riaz could have had the Western Med. I'm trying to like hold in everything I have to say about England right now, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. I don't know the degree to which he was behind that. Incredible diplomatic work. He saved his game there. Not only that, but tactically his position is okay, but diplomatically, what's great about being stabbed is that you suddenly have the moral license to lie to some extent, to kind of shift to a guerrilla war, to play dirty, right? To put down some landmines.
Guerrilla war or guerrilla war?
Well, if you want to mispronounce Spanish.
I know how it's spelled.
Yeah, it's fine.
You pulling out the frame.
Right. We're all about American cultural imperialism here. Every Diplo game should take the 4th of July off, as we all know from this game, regardless of who's in the game. But what I'm saying is, my God, I cannot believe that England believed that France was back on board with him. Amazing work. Just used cars for everyone.
Used cars for everyone.
Just really well done. So tactically, I mean, he didn't really have that much room to maneuver. So it's hard to evaluate, but diplomatically, amazing work. I will say, what exactly is I haven't looked that closely. What was Kale trying to do here? Can you guys tell?
What was Kiel doing?
Supporting Holland to row.
That's right. Yeah, Holland to row. Yeah. So maybe Germany is the protagonist there, but regardless, France still not the best position, but much better than I thought he would be.
Stitches, would you have bought the used car from France this time?
Oh yeah, I love the moves. The disbands make a lot more sense. He recruited an Italian fleet so he can get rid of a fleet. He removed pressure from Italy, so Italy can be a little bit freer to do what it needs to in the east. It's just a win-win for Italy, and I think he bought an ally, which Italy really can't afford to not help him either. So I think they've got over Venice, and it's moving forward. So I like it.
I love the French moves, and I think it's good that he went and supported Holland into Kiel. Didn't worry about piffing the army in Belgium. I think he made the right play. Eustachio.
Yeah, I mean, everything here was exactly as it should be. Inviting the Italian fleet to come follow up was an important gesture, I think, in making amends. Also, getting rid of 2 of the units in the Mediterranean. Having the third fleet could be nice in certain situations, but you need to keep the 3 armies on the front against England so that you can act decisively right now. You didn't have the time to reposition the fleets effectively here. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is getting Germany on board, because Germany's motivation decides this game, really. It decides whether England wins or if there's still something to play for. And so selling Germany on actually helping you out here is the biggest win on the board this turn. I don't know that if it was France that convinced them or just the board as a whole, but whoever took the lead on that deserves props, because it was over without that. If Germany supports England for one more season, if they go to Ruhr and pop that army, that's it. It's over. There's nothing left to play for. It's a positionally won game, even with the waived build. So, I mean, that the rest of it is just standard moves to turn around after you get stabbed. But that diplomatic part is the most notable accomplishment to me.
I also want to add that I felt bad for Philip. I'm sorry that Riaz put on a fake Hawaiian shirt just to be your friend, but I decided to wear one. I figured you needed a bro, so I'm here for you, Philip. I'm here for you. We'll never forget your Hawaiian shirt.
Philip, you still are the people's choice. I gave you that moniker, so the people are rooting for you. Germany here made the right decision after being with England for so long and apparently just having the intractably poor position with France. It's a mark of a good diplomacy player. Stands to lose Holland, obviously, but, well, maybe not obviously now that I look at it, but has a lot of options. Can take Berlin. I mean, there's like a lot of stuff he can do. So I like the German moves and the diplomacy.
I love the German moves. Actually, if you look at it, I mean, Riaz will probably cut it. But if he managed to support Munich into Berlin, he has all his home centers back and a build. And he's actually back in the game. Not to win, but he's back in the game. He's back where he started. So, and
we can talk about it later, but I think he'll send Kiel to Berlin, supported by Munich. Ruhr might go to Kiel and bounce Denmark. Well, no, it wouldn't do it. Yeah, it would still English. Still English.
You want, at this point in the game, I think you want to support Munich to Berlin. I mean, the only part of his plan that's not going great is that even though war against England, it's nice that France has 3 armies for Germany's own fate. Maybe it's not great that France has 3 armies, one that's in Ruhr. But gosh, he could actually clear one of his home centers here. That would be incredible. I'd be playing all sides here. I'd be like, listen, because I've been in this position. Anyone who will get me a build, who will get me my 3rd home center back, I will be like, I will be yours forever. I will be yours forever. 5 games from now, we will still be in love. I promise.
I don't know, Hand. I remember NT1, where I think you were Germany down to 1 center and ended up with like 17 or something.
No, I soloed that. Yeah.
Soloed. You didn't solo.
Yeah, I wasn't down to 1. I wasn't down to 1. I just was trapped in England and had to get my armies back over. Man.
All right.
I think Germany would be in Berlin, and then we'll have a nice little front again. He'll have his armies together and be able to make better moves and moves by himself.
I'm going to go against the grain here. I think he should support Hold Kiel because Fleet Berlin is just a very, very badly placed unit, and bumping it into the Baltic improves England's position. So I think for the moment, you just keep Kiel and wait for maybe a Russian reinforcing unit to help you into Berlin next year.
Oh, you're gonna wait for Iwak to help you?
Well, maybe.
Yeah. You mean Germany help Russia take his home center of Berlin back? Because that's how Ewok thinks of Berlin.
I'm coming. I'll be there by 1908.
Are you guys familiar with the play Waiting for Godot?
Sure.
It's an existential play, which is just about two guys waiting for someone called Godot endlessly into their death. As I think that would definitely be a Waiting for Godot moment to do that. But I mean, if anything, I see what you're saying, Eustachio. On the other hand, maybe pushing him into the Baltic because Russia's a bit of a paranoid player, that might actually make Russia feel threatened enough by England to do something. Can't help but notice, even though I think Russia probably has something to do with getting England to hubristically self-destruct here, I can't help but notice that Russia continues to be the only one who does nothing about England. So classic Ewok, everyone else working hard. He's just busy there avoiding burnout, in his little Ewok tree fort. I don't know. I see what you mean, though. There's a case both ways. Yeah.
I mean, Kiel's really
Baltic
powerful,
also puts St. Petersburg in play next year because it can cut Livonia.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's interesting anyway. You have to consider the ramifications of it, but
yeah.
I
guess I don't. I'd say it's double-edged.
Sorry, we're talking over each other. I won't call it Waiting for Godot. I'll use Lady Razor's take on Ewok last year. Warsaw saw war from a distance. Very much. Ewok. All right, the moment we've been waiting for, England's moves. I have several questions before we get into them, but he builds for Liverpool. How does he take MAO, Hand? You said it twice. It's like I don't think he takes MAO if he builds in Liverpool.
Well, if he could have loaded, what do you mean? He could have. If he had.
No, with Italy.
Well, yeah, that's true. Not with Italy's help. Yeah, not with Italy's help.
You'd have to move
with Italy helping. You can. But regardless, I mean, like this. Okay. All these mucky, disgusting army lovers out there. Like, actually, you know who you need to get on this podcast? Because he actually plays England in a way that's vaguely similar to me, is Umble. Because Helgoland Bite in the Baltic, if you're trying to lock down your lead in the Nexus finals, you need to have those tiles. You need more fleets. You can't hold the northern shore without controlling those tiles. And yeah, he couldn't have necessarily had MAO because Italy's helping, though maybe Italy could have been persuaded not to help. I mean,
but he could pressure it where you don't have a free raider, because now MAO can do anything it wants.
Yeah, now MAO can go. You're playing a guessing game. You're rolling the dice on blocking MAO from moving forward if he decides to.
I thought prioritizing Russia here was a big mistake, because Russia's not doing anything.
That's what I was going to ask.
It only takes 1 or 2 units to stop.
The builds
we discussed this the last time. He's now creating he has a 3-front war. But he created a 2-front war by going against Russia here, by convoying to Norway. Eustachio, and then Hand. I think that's a big mistake. But what do you think?
I think the mistake here is a lack of vision. I don't think any path is necessarily terrible in itself, but he didn't commit to any path. If you're going for St. Petersburg, you have to go to Finland and Barents as well, because then you can put 2 on it in the fall, no matter what.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go hard, but if you don't want to do that, you have to, build Liverpool, because you can stick it in NAO, and worst case, you can bounce an Irish and have a permanent blockade there. But if the key unit for the build is Addy, because London's always going to England, Liverpool should have been built and gone to NAO or Irish. Addy can be an army or a fleet, and it gives you the flexibility to either convoy to Norway or to sink into Helgoland and backfill north. And I agree with Hand about how important Helga Limbite and the Baltic Sea are. I mean, if you control both and you've bottled up St. Petersburg, I mean, positionally, you're so secure in that setting. You're so secure.
Moving Sweden to Baltic would have been able to let you cover Kiel. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Can I just ask,
like,
why is being a Riaz fan such a roller coaster ride? I feel like he just does every move, every great move is followed by a trash move, and every trash move is followed by a good move. So he's probably going to do something brilliant now.
At least the great moves are in the fall.
I mean, it's just like there was literally a guy who, after he waved a build, posted a GIF of people worshiping Riaz. That person should be banned from Nexus. They should be banned. It was terrible. I cannot. He threw away this game. And the thing is, you know, one of the problems I have with this particular game, and this is like I love war. Okay, like one of my favorite kinds of person to play against is people who will declare war on you, you know, slap you in the face with the glove and have a duel, and you'll say, okay, we're angry with each other, we're going to go to war. This is a move I like to do. I say, we're going to fight a war for 3 seasons. We're going to fight a war for 2 years. And afterwards, whoever wins gets to dictate the terms. We're going to have a duel. Like Riaz, I mean, you guys know his background more. I actually wonder if he's a face-to-face player, maybe that's what made him think that a wave might work versus a press game where it's not going to, especially in the finals. But, you know, Riaz, you're an amazing tactician. You made a game-changing stab in 1904. Even if you started losing the war, you have time to recoup the situation, especially if you declare it with honor. Fight everyone. You've got to love to fight. Like, build all 3 and try to win. Fight everyone. You know, enjoy the time where you don't have to constantly beg and court people, and all you have to do is fight. It's the best. You know,
I won't
tactically
argue
with them.
I won't argue that he's an amazing tactician, but he did do the same move over and over again. And we can't discount that Germany actually might have helped him or enticed him to stab. And after this move, I mean, maybe it's not so good this season.
Just what was he thinking? What was he thinking that, you know, after you could stab your Hawaiian shirt bro and he's just gonna like go along with you? That
I think he thought that guys, he was 1 German away from Ruhr. I mean, he thought he had Germany on side. I'm not going to sit here and, you know, bemoan it. He thought he had Italy on side.
I'm very proud that Germany did not throw this. He definitely made this game exciting.
I'll throw out a theory about Riaz, his choice here, because I mean, I know that Riaz is a very good tactician. He's probably the best gunboat player I know. Him more like Paz. And I think this was a decision to try and shift focus away from him. Like, he takes some minor lumps here, but his position is still dominating and he trusts in what he has. And that if he can get enough infighting on other parts of the board, it will open up a second opportunity for him to push forward and make real progress. So he had 2 ways for this to work. Either Germany works with him, crushes Ruhr, and that's game, or he can shift the focus elsewhere on the board. Russia's starting to get big, for example, and he can open up opportunities for himself that way down the road, as it appears that maybe some progress is being made against him. But really, there's not a whole lot that they can do to weaken his position here. There's still no northern fleets, and there's not going to be any northern fleets.
Well, let me dovetail on Eustachio. If there's a IT, if there's a Kraken against Russia,
is that what it's called?
Whatever.
It's, I don't know. I'm just curious because
if the Kraken is unleashed and it's an IT against Russia, and all Germany really has to face, also all England really has to face is France and Germany, it's still like his chances.
Come on. He literally, if he had built all 3 units, he would be winning this game. Like he stabbed in 1904. There's plenty of time. Even if the board unites against you, people appreciate an honorable war. People appreciate the time spent fighting and not lying and not just kind of like sending each other flowers while you cheat on them is actually good for your relationship. Sometimes it's good to spend a little time apart. Sometimes it's good not to have to, do all the false romance. Like make a break for it. Try. Just
this is not audacious hand. This is authentic hand. Riaz comes to defend hand in the Discord comment server today, and hand does not back off on the criticism.
I really feel like
he brings it full force against Riaz. He did not buy your love.
I didn't see him defend me. Maybe I would have been more susceptible to flattery had I seen it. But maybe Riaz knows that he fucked up and he's just trying to send me some flowers. But yeah, I think I honestly I felt like a little bullied by the mud covered army lovers but Riaz, I'm ready. I feel myself. I'm ready to get to the top of the roller coaster again. Come on, you've got. But this was bad. This was really bad.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, suppose you built Fleet Liverpool. It's an NAL right now.
Yeah,
you're facing a disband this winter if that's the case. The least useful unit to me would be the army that's currently in Norway, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, like, by building that and waving, you've limited your options here in the winter when you're disbanding.
Yeah.
It just
I think he had really realistically two options: stick with France and secure the north peacefully, or take the stab and rush to secure the north and be dominant. And he didn't do either.
What's the worst part? The worst part is he left the Baltic to take Berlin to get that third build and then didn't do it.
Right.
If
you leave that, maybe Germany helps you.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have your meat shield Germany, who puts pressure on France, who keeps Russia off your back. You're in the Baltic. Why would you take Berlin and wave a build? Why?
I think that's the best point you've made in a year.
I mean, thank you. I don't know. That's pretty
from him.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's hard to tell with that sometimes.
Okay. I want to
talk building on that too. If he leaves the fleet in Baltic this spring, he could have put enough on St. Petersburg to take it.
Yeah.
He could have bounced Livonia and put Finland, Barents, and then you have the center. I mean, yeah. You always have to be very careful about leaving the Baltic because it's so valuable.
I agree.
So
I agree.
Especially as England.
Yeah.
I want to get into the tactics for the fall. So I'd like to quickly do grades, but based on what I'm hearing, I hear 6 A's for 6 players and then a Riaz grade. Does anyone have less than an A for anyone other than Riaz?
What? We're starting with England?
Other than Riaz, you have less than an A for anybody on the board.
If this is again,
oh yeah,
you're getting carried away by your Texan education inflation kind of thing again. So
all right, let's do it. Can you go quicker? Turkey grade stitches.
I'm gonna give it A-.
Hand
C+.
C?
Yeah.
Actually B, because I would have followed Bulgaria. I know it's a diplomatic thing. I like the fleet to protect everything.
Follow Bulgaria and go to Smyrna. I think that it's time for let's just call it an IT is now known as the Kraken, as Ed said. So he should have gone with the Kraken.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Eustakia.
Yeah, I'll say B.
It's a solid B. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't do anything particularly noteworthy.
Give him an A.
We'll see next turn, probably.
He's preserved his options. I give him an A. Russia.
A.
A.
That's probably one of the best moves of the entire game, if not the best. And it's a great build, and he's in great positioning.
And great diplomacy too, because I think I think him
multilateral.
I think him in France. If my gut tells me him and France were behind this English hubris and self-destruction. So, A.
Yeah, I agree.
A+. That's the right answer. Italy.
I give Italy an A. I give Italy an A, and also I'm going to go to the grocery store and get one of those "I'm sorry" cards with a little teddy bear and send it to him as well, because I do think that his long-range thinking was a little more solid than I thought. And yeah, I think he's in a great position. I like all his moves. I think he should have moved to the Western Med, but again, that really depends on his evaluation of France's character. So yeah, he gets an A.
I'm gonna give him an A-.
Him and Russia are even. So
just because I think securing Aegean to move somewhere off of the island would have been a little bit better. So for that reason, A-.
Yeah, I'll go A- as well.
I'm going to
A better.
Yeah.
It's an A+. Mad Max is Fab Max. Austria is great. Here's why it's an F.
Because he garnered no ally. He lost 2 centers.
That ship has sailed. He hasn't had any allies. It's an F-. He should have moved Tyrolia to Bohemia, Trieste to Tyrolia, and tried to find a new theater of operations. Okay, because this one wasn't working out for him.
Listen, Pez, you know when you're in Italy and you go to the cathedral and then there's the old Zingari woman who pretends like she's collapsed outside the cathedral and has one trembling hand going up asking for a coin? That's what you need to be doing. Swallow your pride. Apologize, beg, flatter, like learn to love life, okay? Like you can't this Parmenidean, like I'm above everyone, the cosmic unity. It's great, it's great. It almost got me, but that's really just because of my idiosyncrasies. You know, if you can't even get someone to take you on as a one-center slave, that's a shame. That's a shame.
Bohemia is like the monkey paw of Austria.
And the thing is, if you're going out and you know you're going out, at least try to punish the board for it. Like he could have gone to Bohemia and Tyrolia and just messed with giving England more power, because like if you're going to lose, you may as well make sure nobody in the East wins.
Okay,
he gives up when he's down.
So Pez, you are the Godfather. So 2 lessons from the Godfather. One is, just like Eustachio said when he told Johnny Fontaine, you can act like a man. He should have acted like a man and done something different than what he's doing. But conversely, making the same point, the first scene of The Godfather, you need to, as Hand says, be a little Amerigo Bonacera, swallow your pride, and, make something work. All right. Let's go to France. Hand, can you do your grade in French?
Je donne une A. he gets an A. Yeah, he gets an A. He did really well. Again, like the moves themselves are a little bit predetermined, but diplomatically he did very well. If he had a hand in England's disastrous flex, then even better. But yeah, he gets an A.
Definitely A.
EVR.
Sorry, I got distracted by the basketball. Which power?
France.
France.
Okay. Yeah, that's an A.
Okay.
I think you could have done better.
Who's winning? I forgot that was on.
It's tied at 73. Good game.
Oh,
Okay.
God. Okay, let's speed this up.
The thing about France is he did sell the used car to Germany this time after blowing them off, thinking It's the old story of Michael Dell going to an Austin Ferrari dealership in '93 and wearing shorts, and they wouldn't sell him a car. They couldn't even get him a salesman, so he went down to San Antonio, bought 10 Ferraris at the Ferrari dealership there, and took a bunch of pictures of himself with the salesman. And they were all loving life. And so he got that car to Germany, and he did what England did not do, which is give Germany some hope. So it's an A+ for me. Germany, also an A+ for me. He did the right
big reversal for Germany for me. Yeah, I really like his moves. Hopefully he stays on that French bandwagon. I think it'll get him a little bit further than the rest of the powers around him. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the least it earns him a longer survival than Austria. So he'll move up from 7th to 6th, potentially 5th if one of the Eastern powers goes down before him, because nobody except England is going to attack Germany at this point. It's just not going to happen. So, I mean, diplomatically, everybody loves Germany right now because they have the power to do things against England.
And he only had to attempt suicide to get rid of the
yeah, he definitely gets an A. I mean, he might get a 3rd build. I mean, if he gets that build, that'd be incredible. I think that if he is trying to get back in this game, and he's not going to win, but in some manner, it wouldn't be terrible if France had to get rid of one of those armies around him. You might want to keep flipping. Again, the moral license, when everyone's attacked you like this, when you've been betrayed by all, it means you can keep that suicide vest on at all times, and you have the moral license to do whatever. He could flip again, and I don't think anyone would blame him, right? So that's good. That's good. Yeah, you might even tell England, hey, let me have Berlin, and you can have Holland.
You see a situation where he supports Munich to Berlin?
Yeah, definitely.
Munich's probably not under threat. I mean, most likely it'll fail, but
I think the best would honestly actually he has a lot of options. Yeah. I think that what he wants is to get a build the next turn. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about tactics in a second. I'm going to pull up the map. Riaz is great. And you can't grade on the builds. That was 1904.
Well, whatever. I'm giving it an F anyway. Because I'm bringing the builds in because the filthy masses didn't let me, they stopped me from unleashing my disdain at the builds, and so I'm going to carry that over into this turn, and then even turns, just the naivete. I mean, the hubris to think that after you've lied and stabbed so much that you're going to keep these people on side, rather than cultivating some goodwill through just kind of honorable and pleasurable warfare. Putting an army into Norway at this point. Yeah, it's an F. It's an F. I think Rios is just a fiend for A's and F. Maybe he's just an adrenaline junkie. I don't know. I can kind of relate to that a little bit, but yeah, it's an F.
Even though he still has a pretty decent position, I'm not grading him on position, just the moves in general. I just dislike them. I think he's lost a lot of leverage. I don't think he's in a bad spot, but yeah, for the most part, this season's an F for me.
Well, I mean, relative to the spot he was in, where he.
Oh right, no, I agree. That's an F. I'm not saying he's lost the game, but he's definitely lost his dominant position.
So your grade is Ditches?
F.
EVR?
F.
Yeah, I think it's an F, because even if you accept that the builds are what they are, there are better tactical move sets here. I think you have to assume that Germany is not on your side anymore, and at the very least, probably not that useful anymore, even if they were. So I think the move set here is to assume that Ruhr is supporting Holland to Kiel. You tap Ruhr with the army in Belgium while convoying Eddie to Holland and supporting that with Kiel. You smash the German army, then you have 3 on Belgium in the fall. I would tap Norway with Norwegian and move Sweden down to Baltic. And then you can use Kiel to tap Ruhr while using Baltic to support Berlin to Kiel. Everything's covered. You end up with both Holland and Belgium.
Baltic was necessary. Sweden and the Baltic was definitely the biggest missed opportunity. You did not need to be focusing STP. You can need to focus your German centers.
He could have had STP.
I don't know. I mean, I agree that that's a better move set, EVR. I give him a D. And the reason I do is that I don't like he lured Germany this far. I don't know why he couldn't have thought it would have happened one more time. You know,
You didn't think Germany would fly for a center?
He did fly
I think
to the sun. Well, I'm not sure he snagged Berlin.
I think it's plausible that Germany would have helped him, but at the same time, I think you have to ask, do I still need Germany? And the answer here was no.
I still think that I'm still not sure if him taking Berlin was with Germany's consent last time.
Yeah.
It's a question of the game.
Maybe it was a huge lure of him just being as stupid as possible, luring England to think that he was going to do something he wasn't. I don't know.
But yeah, you can't sit on two of someone's home centers and think they're going to help you. Come on.
Okay, I want to talk about the tactical situation real quickly.
Boom.
What does Germany do? We've already said two of you like Munich to Berlin, supported by Kiel. Ruhr supports Kiel.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to tap Berlin here because temporarily it can tap Munich. So you have to make that a mover.
I like Munich to Berlin. Worst case scenario, you keep Kiel. It's still a powerful position.
You want to build. That's the only thing to do. Do that. And just put all your effort in that you got your move. Sometimes the best diplomacy is when you know your move right away and you can spend the entire 24 hours weaving the diplomacy around it. You know, you've been in the wilderness with your two armies, go door to door, begging for bread, you know, pull every heartstring you can, get that, man. You've got to get Munich into Berlin. You have to.
Well, I don't know. EVR made a good point about a retreating Berlin. So I think that's a good point. But
yeah, but getting an extra build, it'd be worth it. But if not, staying in Kiel is great too. Having that fleet grounded isn't bad. So
I think I might be inclined.
If not, don't worry about it.
What about Kiel to Holland, Munich to Kiel? Ruhr supports Munich to Kiel.
I mean, you'd get a build that way. That would work too. I'd rather have my home center back, honestly. That would work too. That's not bad.
Yeah, but if Berlin goes to Kiel with support, it bounces and Germany's still at 0.
I would really like your thoughts on Norwegian North, Belgium, Holland. What's going to happen there? I mean, Belgium's not guaranteed to keep, but France has a guessing game.
Yeah, I think like Riaz could just take Holland if he wants it, but at the same time, denying France a build is far more valuable than taking away a German center that, I mean, Germany, it's a long shot that they're going to have an open center for a build. Like you can pretty much guarantee that they won't. So the play around Brest and then Belgium is pretty interesting here. Does MAL try to cut England and risk giving up Brest? It guarantees Belgium though. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I feel like you have to cover Brest because the ultimate kill move, if it worked, would be convoying Belgium to Brest, and then France is in a really bad way because he's overextended north and his core centers are in trouble.
There's so many risks. There's so many, like, Riaz, what did you do, man? I described you on the pod as a stallion being chased by shabby ponies, and I watched this stallion break its own leg, and now the ponies are just cannibalistically eating you. Like, I can barely even look, and because I imagine where he was and where he is now, it's not a good situation. He might be able, I think Germany's a mercenary at this point. I know this sounds crazy. I'd be telling Germany, I would just tell Germany I would move to the Baltic and just tell Germany,
Take Berlin.
Hey, take Berlin. Congrats, you're up to 3. I mean, maybe if you're really feeling daring, you can kind of try to play both sides and see if someone else wants to go into Munich, like Austria or something. But yeah, I think that's the way to go. I mean,
well, he can't afford to. Well, I guess he could afford to disband 2.
Like,
because he has one disband in pocket, he could disband Norway.
Yeah, but I mean, gosh, like, France could be threatening the island. France could, if he doesn't block Brest, France could even have a convoy line to the island. And if England doesn't move right, wouldn't be able to break it.
That's an interesting question. Is Belgium worth it here?
Belgium is never worth it.
No.
Belgium is worth it. It's the other thing I'm taping on my wall.
Use Picardy to cover Brest. You can even just like retreat the armies along the line to cover any invasion point. Ignore Belgium because it's always going to be a weakness that has to be protected.
Yeah.
And gain position.
If you want Belgium, you have to have the channel. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even just, yeah. No, I think advancing the fleet makes sense here.
So maybe he leaves Norway alone. I don't know, or convoys Norway out.
Oh, I think he's giving up on Russia right now.
It was like Norwegian just goes to Norway. Maybe he convoys it out.
Norwegian goes to North Atlantic.
Yeah.
I think
better.
I think Norway may.
Hold.
I guess you can't really convoy anywhere.
If Norwegian doesn't go to North Atlantic and a convoy line forms through the Irish Sea and you can't do anything about it, that's a problem. That's
He's got to move to North Atlantic.
He has to. Yeah, he really has to. Man. Oof. I can't believe he did this.
I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do, but he might take a stab at Kiel, convoy north to Denmark.
There's just no situation here where a fleet in NAO or Irish wouldn't be valuable here. Like every plausible scenario, it would have utility on this move.
Yeah,
it's painful.
Okay, well, I think we've said our 4 pieces here. I've enjoyed
a mess.
I have enjoyed Hans' French pronunciation of words, the Spanish pronunciation of words. I don't think I didn't hear Riku in there. I heard Riku and Garia. But thanks to everybody for listening to this exciting episode. We are almost halfway done with this game that is both a marathon and a sprint, as the 4 of us know. So we will catch you on the flip side. Thanks to diplomacybriefing.com for sponsoring us. Fellas, good night. Is there anything else you want to say? Hope not. The answer is no, but if there is, say it. Otherwise, say good night.
No.
Good night.
Thank you, EVR.
Good night, and thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. All right. Good night, Gracie.